The first strike came without warning. From orbit, the Thalorian dreadnought Dominion's fist loomed like a continent of steel, blotting out the stars. Its opening salvo reduced Earth's defense grid to fire and wreckage. Satellites, painstakingly assembled over decades, shattered into molten fragments. Whole constellations of warning beacons winked out in seconds. On the dreadnought's bridge, Lord Commander Varric Staller clasped his hands behind his back, lips curling into a smile. "Primitive," he murmured, watching the Earth's orbital layer collapse. "The ape world defends its skies with toys." His officers laughed, metallic voices echoing against polished alloy walls. Beneath that laughter, in a reinforced bunker under London, the mood was anything but amused. The air tasted of concrete dust and recycled filters. Screens flickered red with casualty reports. Earth's Joint Command huddled around a holographic table, its projection dominated by the schematic of the Dominion's fist. It stretched across the display like a floating city, 15 kilometers long, bristling with cannons, its heart a pulsing sphere of light-marked Nexus core. General Foster's voice cracked. "That monster directs half their fleet. Every maneuver, every strike, coordinated from that core. As long as it stands, we don't have a chance." Silence weighed heavy until another officer asked, almost whispering, "Do we surrender?" The question hung in the air like a loaded weapon. In the back of the room, Captain Jonathan Kane adjusted the cuffs of his battered uniform. He stepped forward, cutting through the hopeless stares with the calm of a man used to walking into impossible odds. "Surrender buys us chains. A dead fleet buys us time." All eyes turned to him. He was lean, broad-shouldered, with the sharp gaze of someone who'd seen too many firefights. A faint scar traced his cheekbone, a reminder from a war most of the galaxy hadn't even noticed. General Foster nodded grimly. "We've got one option. A surgical strike. The Nexus core is shielded against orbital bombardment, but vulnerable from within. If we can infiltrate Dominion's fist, plant charges, we cripple their command net. Without coordination, their fleets scatter." Someone scoffed. "Infiltrate? That ship's crawling with drones, war beasts, an entire garrison. We'd need an army." Kane shook his head. "No. You need ghosts." The room shifted as his words sank in. Foster's eyes met his. "You're suggesting Special Air Service?" Kane allowed the faintest smirk. "That's what you keep us around for." They gathered in the underground hangar, Kane and 4 others, shadows in matte black armor. Sergeant McBride, grizzled and scarred, his humor as rough as his Glasgow accent. Corporal Singh, youngest of the team, sharp-eyed but nervous, clutching his rifle like a lifeline. Daniels, the quiet breacher with steady hands. And O'Neill, the comms expert, wiry and sharp-tongued. "Odds?" O'Neill asked as they checked gear. McBride chuckled darkly. 0 to none. "Better than last week," Kane replied dryly. Singh swallowed hard. "Sir, that it's like a city. How do 5 men? You don't need to eat the city." Kane cut in, locking a magazine into place. "Just pull the plug." They boarded the shuttle, a relic compared to Thalorian warcraft. It rattled under their boots, its hull patched and repatched. Yet its systems were stripped for stealth, engines whisper quiet, hull coated with radar-absorbing panels. It wasn't pretty, but neither were they. As the hangar doors opened, Kane caught sight of the memorial wall, names etched into steel, a river of the fallen. He lingered only a second. Too many ghosts already. He wouldn't add his squad to the list if he could help it. Space swallowed them. Through the narrow viewport, the Dominion's fist grew larger, each kilometer of alien alloy shimmering with reactor glow. Its hull crawled with patrol drones, each one capable of slicing a shuttle apart. Yet the SAS moved in silence, drifting amid the debris of Earth's shattered satellites. "Beautiful, isn't it?" McBride muttered. Kane's voice was flat. "It's a slaughterhouse." They drifted closer, hearts pounding as the dreadnought eclipsed the stars. Kane's mind ticked through possibilities, failure scenarios, contingency plans. For all the grandeur of the ship, he knew one thing: arrogance left cracks. and he'd spent his life slipping through cracks. The shuttle systems dimmed as they cut engines, letting momentum carry them under the warship's belly. Shadows wrapped around them. Daniels leaned forward, guiding the shuttle into position against the maintenance panel. A faint thud echoed as magnetic clamps locked on. "This is it," Kane said quietly. His voice carried none of the tension in his chest. "Once we cut through, there's no turning back. We hit fast, move quiet, and don't get clever unless clever keeps us alive. Clear?" The squad nodded. Singh breathed out, steadying himself. "History's not going to remember us, is it, sir?" Kane slipped his helmet on, sealing it with a click. His voice filtered through comms, low and certain. "No. But the Thalorians will." The breaching torch hissed, sparks spraying into the void as steel yielded. Beyond the thinning barrier waited the heart of an empire, and the laugh of a commander who thought humans were beneath notice. Kane gripped his rifle. The cut widened. Darkness spilled into the shuttle like an invitation. "Time to show them," he said, stepping into the void. "What apes can do." The hull split open with a final spark, and the squad slipped inside. Silence pressed down, thick, mechanical, humming with unseen power. Alien alloy walls arched overhead, lit by a faint blue glow that pulsed with the ship's heartbeat. The corridor stretched endless, wide enough for a tank. Even empty, it radiated menace. McBride muttered through comms. "Feels like we walked into God's bloody cathedral." Kane raised a hand, halting them. He crouched, scanning the deck for motion sensors. Nothing obvious, but nothing about this ship was obvious. His gut told him every surface had eyes. "Keep it tight," he whispered. "Move." They advanced in silence, boots magnetized against the deck, each step measured. Kane's rifle swept corners while O'Neill tracked their route on a wrist pad, marking junctions. Singh's breathing rasped too fast in comms until McBride gave him a light tap on the helmet. "Easy, lad. It's just another crawl through the neighbor's house," McBride said. "Neighbors don't keep armies in the basement," Singh replied. "Depends on the neighborhood." Kane cut them off. "Quiet." A sound, soft, metallic, slid around the bend. The team froze. A maintenance drone rolled into view, spindly legs tapping on alloy. Its sensors swept lazily, scanning panels. It stopped, pivoted toward the faint scorch of the cut hull behind them. Kane moved first. A blur of muscle and steel, he closed the gap before the drone could blink red. His blade slipped under the sensor cluster, twisting with practiced force. The drone spasmed, lights dimmed, and it collapsed silently. He lowered the body to the floor, eyes sharp. "Knives don't trigger alarms," he said. O'Neill smirked. "Back to basics. Like medieval burglary. Burglars didn't carry plastique," Daniels muttered, planting a charge on the drone's remains, an improvised trap if anyone stumbled on it. They pressed on. Through grills and bulkheads, Kane caught glimpses of the ship's guts, conduits glowing like veins, alien glyphs etched into walls pulsing faint light. Beyond one barrier lay a cavernous hangar, its ceiling vanishing into shadow. Rows of gunmetal drones stood at attention, 1,000 strong, waiting like statues. Singh whispered, "One button and those things roll out." "We wouldn't last a minute." Kane's reply was ice. "Then don't give them a button." At a junction, muffled voices drifted closer. Kane signaled cover. They melted into alcoves as 3 Thalorian officers strode past, armored boots ringing. Their voices carried, sharp and guttural, but O'Neill's translator whispered the gist. "Humans resist surrender. Pathetic, throwing flesh against machines. Let them bleed. The more they struggle, the more amusing the collapse. A reminder to other species what happens when primitives defy the Empire." Laughter followed them, cruel and careless. McBride's knuckles whitened on his rifle. Singh's jaw tightened. Kane didn't move. He only whispered once they were gone. "That arrogance? That's our opening." The team reached their first target, a security hub. Transparent panels glowed with alien script, a web of surveillance feeds showing every deck. Drones patrolled in perfect grids, officers moved with machine precision. Daniels cracked the console open with tools that looked laughably crude compared to the tech they faced. Sparks spat, but after tense minutes the feeds flickered. O'Neill tapped his pad. Cameras looped. Patrol schedules scrambled. We're shadows now. Kane nodded. Good. Plant scramblers. We move deeper. Singh hesitated. Sir, what if they notice? They will, Kane said. But by the time they do, we'll be gone, or the Corps will. They split briefly. Daniels and O'Neill seeded jammers through ducts while Kane, McBride, and Singh advanced toward the Nexus chamber. The corridors shifted, long stretches of silence broken by sudden clusters of activity. Patrols changed pattern without warning. At one cross-section, drones emerged unexpectedly. Kane ducked into a service shaft, dragging Singh and McBride with him. The squad clung to darkness as machines passed meters away, their sensors sweeping like knives of light. Singh's hands trembled on his rifle. Kane gripped his forearm. Breathe. They're machines. Predictable. You're not. That's the difference. Singh steadied, nodding. The light swept past, and the drones vanished. Farther in, alarms echoed faintly, distant but unmistakable. The squad froze. Kane's jaw clenched. That's not us. McBride frowned. Drills? Or someone else stirred the hornet's nest? The uncertainty gnawed at Kane. He didn't like unknowns, but there was no time to solve them. Whatever caused it, they'd use the chaos. They reached a maintenance deck overlooking the Nexus chamber. Kane crouched at the ledge, peering through slats. Below stretched a cathedral of machinery. Towering conduits pulsed with light, feeding into a colossal sphere suspended in gravitic fields, the Nexus core. It throbbed like a living heart, energy rippling across its surface in waves. Around it, Thalorian soldiers drilled, armored and precise, their weapons slung with casual confidence. Singh exhaled sharply. How do we even touch that? Carefully, Kane said. But even he felt the weight. The core wasn't just a machine, it radiated authority, the spine of an empire. Before they could plan, the chambers shifted. Soldiers moved in formation, breaking drills. A heavy officer entered, clad in dark armor lined with gold. His voice carried. Command detected anomalies. Patrols report disturbances. This chamber is secure, but vigilance is absolute. If intruders crawl within our walls, they will learn the price of defiance. Kane's stomach dropped. Singh whispered. They know. Kane studied the scene. Too many soldiers, too much armor. A direct strike here meant suicide. Yet retreat meant failure, and failure meant earth burning. He gritted his teeth. Then we improvise. McBride cocked his rifle, eyes narrowing. About bloody time. The chamber pulsed with light, soldiers assembling like clockwork. The officer's gaze swept the room, arrogant, sure of supremacy. In the shadows above, Kane's squad adjusted silencers, primed charges, and steadied their breathing. The trap had been sprung, but Kane had no intention of being the one caught. The Nexus chamber thrummed with alien energy. Kane's squad crouched in the rafters, weapons aimed at soldiers assembling below. The officer in gold armor barked orders, his voice ringing through the cathedral of steel. Drones marched into formation, rifles clutched with mechanical precision. McBride whispered, That's a firing squad waiting for us. Kane's eyes never left the core. Then we stop waiting. He gave a hand signal. 3 shadows shifted with him, each man steadying for what they knew might be their last push. Kane dropped first. His boots slammed into the deck, rifle spitting controlled bursts. A Thalorian soldier collapsed before his mind caught up to the noise. McBride followed with a roar, shotgun booming, each blast shattering shields at point-blank range. O'Neill's charges detonated along catwalks, collapsing metal into sparks and chaos. The room exploded in noise, plasma bolts screamed, ricocheting off cover. Drones swarmed, red optics flaring. Singh's voice cracked through comms. We're blown wide open. Hold ground! Kane shouted, sliding behind a column. Break their rhythm! The Thalorian officer advanced, towering above his troops, voice cutting through fire. You dare crawl into the heart of the Empire? You apes will die nameless! Kane ducked, plasma searing past his head. Funny, he muttered, reloading with practiced calm. That's exactly what they said in Hellman. He popped out, aimed carefully, and put 3 rounds through the gaps in the officer's escort's armor. The aliens dropped, choking sparks. The fight turned brutal. Daniels collapsed a cooling vent, flooding the chamber with steam. Visibility plummeted, sensors scrambled. Humans moved by instinct, low, fast, precise. The Thalorians, drilled into rigid formations, faltered when their lines broke. McBride laughed harshly through the smoke. Not so clever without your shiny toys, eh? Bolts hissed past, scorching walls. A plasma round clipped Singh's shoulder, spinning him down with a scream. Kane yanked him back behind cover, ignoring the burn searing his own arm. Singh's visor flickered red, his breath ragged. Stay with me, Kane ordered, voice steady. Pain's just proof you're alive. Singh clenched his jaw, nodded once, and pushed his rifle back into firing position. The officer charged through the haze, his armor glowing with shield fields. Kane rose to meet him, knife drawn. Plasma fire lit the fog around them as the two closed in. The Thalorian swung a blade humming with energy, cleaving metal like butter. Kane ducked low, sparks raining over him. He slashed upward, steel screeching against shields, leaving only a shallow mark. You fight with sticks, the officer sneered, pressing forward with crushing strength. Kane's eyes narrowed. Funny thing about sticks. They wedge into places you don't expect. He feinted left, then drove the blade under the officer's arm joint. The knife bit through exposed synth muscle. The alien roared, backhanding Kane across the floor, but blood, dark and shimmering, splattered the deck. Kane spat copper into his helmet. Told you. Apes bite. O'Neill's voice snapped over comms. Charges planted on the core's conduits. Ready to blow, Cap. Detonate, Kane ordered. Negative. It'll cook us with them. Kane scanned the chamber. The core pulsed brighter, alien glyphs flaring along the walls. He realized with a cold knot that the system was already adapting, rerouting defenses. If they simply detonated, the failsafes might contain the damage. They needed overload. He pulled himself up, bleeding from his lip. O'Neill, reroute the grid. Feed every system into the core. Make it choke on its own power. That'll burn half this ship alive. Kane's answer was iron. Good. Do it. The firefight raged. McBride covered O'Neill, ripping through drones with brutal efficiency. Daniels went down under plasma fire, his chest plate glowing molten. He coughed once, eyes wide, before stilling. Kane spared him only a second's look, long enough to carve the loss into memory. Charges reset, O'Neill called, fingers flying over alien panels. Sparks danced across conduits as power screamed toward the core. The sphere pulsed erratically, light waves stuttering. Alarms shrieked across the chamber. Overload in 60 seconds! The officer staggered forward, one arm mangled, yet still burning with fury. You think this victory matters? One ship is nothing to the Empire. Kane aimed down sights, voice flat. It's not about the ship. It's about the story. 3 shots cracked. The alien fell, armor sparking, silence swallowing his laugh. Move! Kane ordered. The squad sprinted through collapsing corridors. Systems failed around them, bulkheads slamming shut, conduits bursting with white fire. Singh limped, leaning on Kane as McBride carried O'Neill's pack. The ship howled like a wounded beast, its heartbeat unraveling. They reached escape pods, sleek, alien capsules glowing faintly. Kane shoved Singh into one, then McBride and O'Neill. Plasma fire roared from behind as drones surged, desperate to stop them. Kane turned, rifle spitting fury, each shot precise. Cap, get in! O'Neill shouted. Kane fired his last burst, then dove into the pod as O'Neill slammed the hatch. The pod launched with bone-crushing force, spinning free of the dreadnought's belly. From space they watched. The Dominion's fist convulsed, its core blazing like a sun. Conduits ruptured across its hull, fire boiling out in waves. A moment later, the supercarrier tore apart, fragments spinning into the void. Across the battlefield, the Thalorian fleets faltered. Deprived of command synchronization, ships drifted, colliding, retreating in chaos. Earth's battered defense fleet surged forward, pressing the sudden opening. For the first time in the war, the Empire staggered. The pod crash-landed in the ocean, dragged swiftly to a hidden recovery vessel. Hours later, Kane woke in the London bunker again, stitched and burned but alive. The war room erupted in cheers as feeds confirmed the destruction of the Dominion's fist. General Foster gripped Kane's shoulder. "You gave us a fighting chance. The galaxy will remember this day." Kane's eyes flicked to his squad. McBride sat silent, O'Neill exhausted but grinning, Singh pale yet alive. Daniel's absence was a weight Kane carried like lead. He exhaled slowly. "The Empire will be back. And next time, they'll take us seriously." Foster nodded. "Then we'll be ready." Kane turned, his gaze hard as iron, voice low. "They thought we were ants." He holstered his rifle. "Now they know ants bite."